Hello, I'm James Fitzsimons, and welcome to The Career Scoop, a podcast all about career progression, advice and experiences, aimed at assisting those who are in career transition. Today my guest is Her Excellency Ambassador Deike Potzel of the Federal Republic of Germany to Ireland. Ambassador Potzel has been involved in representing Germany internationally for nearly 25 years. I'm delighted to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Well, I'd like to start off, maybe you might just give us a quick overview of your career to date.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, and if you allow me, I would like to go back to my childhood, really, because that's when it all started, because I was born and raised in East Germany. And there it wasn't so easy to do your A-levels. So my mom had to lie a little bit about what I wanted to become later in order to enroll me at one of the secondary schools in East Germany. So she put down that I wanted to become a teacher, which I never wanted to, but that brought me into that school. And then also in East Germany, not everyone who did the A-level was allowed to go to university. And also you were kind of assigned a subject. So you were allowed to apply, but it was not always the case that you would actually get what you were applying for. So I got into that A-level school, and they were very unhappy with me that I then decided not to become a teacher, or that I told them not to become a teacher. And I wanted to study languages. And then I applied for a language study course at university. And I actually wanted to study Chinese and Japanese. And I didn't get that. So they gave me French and English. So I studied French and English. And after my studies, I then actually pretty straight away applied for the Foreign Service, because my then boyfriend, now husband of more than 25 years, decided to apply there. And we've both always been very political persons. So I kind of thought, yeah, let's just give it a try to see whether that works in a West German context to apply for a job. And I didn't really A, think that was going to work, and B, it was not the thing that I wanted to do all my life, I wanted to become an interpreter. I wanted to translate books. I wanted to work with languages. I loved literature. And then this thing comes up, and I apply for it. And once we got accepted, I sat down with him and with my family, because I didn't really want to go and do it. My biggest concern was, and that again goes back to my upbringing in the East, was that it would be too political, too politicized. In East Germany, you would have had to become a member of the Communist Party, maybe even of the Stasi, to work in that environment. And so I was really worried. And then West German friends told me I should definitely do it, would look nice on my CV. So I went in and 25 later, I'm ambassador to Ireland. And in between, we were posted to Singapore and to Tehran. And then I spent a couple of years working in HR in the ministry, and also on the Iran desk in Berlin. So before coming here, I was basically Deputy Director General for Human Resources in Berlin.
Wow, that's really interesting. And what are you most proud of the 25 years? And why?
Well, that is not an easy one to answer, actually. I think I'm very happy to present and represent my country abroad, and to make people familiar with who we are and what we are today in this world, and to explain why we do things the way we do them, and why we have a political standpoint, a particular political standpoint, to really be able to do that, and to bring people together. Which, especially like here in Ireland, I find that fantastic that works so well, bringing people together. But also in a different context like Tehran, to really confront people with their views of Germany, German history in particular, like in Iran, was always a very touchy issue, and to confront people there and to make them aware of our view. That's very rewarding.
And how do you must have loads of examples when you are meeting people of different cultures. And how do you translate? How do you make that connection? Can you want to share any stories around that? And because sometimes people are suspicious of people, rightly, wrongly.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone has his or her own stereotypes when you talk about a different culture, right? But that is also why when we take in people as a foreign ministry, we try to find people who have that intercultural trait, kind of that they have this understanding of intercultural differences, and to me, it's just fascinating to elaborate and to look into that and to feel it every day and to realize, the differences between people, and then you kind of have to swing with it, without sort of negating your own self, but to kind of understand and then react positively and correctly, and then, as I say, get a swing with people and make them comfortable. And one important thing is to listen. I think that's very, very important, to listen and then to understand what people are actually saying. So try to learn from others rather than just sort of give out and explain your own view.
And how would you use that? Say if you're going back to your 24-year-old self, could you have taken a course to learn some of the stuff or some of the skills that you've learned obviously over 25 years? And most of us learn skills by probably making a mistake and oops.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And you make mistakes all along. But what I would say to a 24-year-old is have an open mind, go see places, travel around the world if you can. If you can't, then read books, be open for the literature of other places, be open for movies, and for talking to people within your own community who are different from who you are. So really keep an open mind and try to be curious. I think that I've always been very curious, starting off with listening to the BBC World Service when I was still in East Germany to once the wall fell, immediately setting out on an interrail tour to going to the places where we had the pleasure to live. So,
I know you shared with me before, and maybe you'd share with our listeners the story of some date in November 1989 when a certain event happened. I think it was the 9th of November.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Crazy day, really, and a very memorable day in my life. Yeah, I mean, that was the fall of the wall. And I was actually at a concert with a friend of mine. And when we came out from the concert, he drove me home, and my father opened the door and shouted at me, really screaming, "The walls come down, the walls come down. You can go to Paris, you can go to Paris." And I was like looking at him, and I was really kind of, this is really weird. Has he had too many drinks? Something is going on here. So, and then he dragged me to the TV, and indeed, I saw people crossing the border, and so my friend called and said, "Shall we go?" And so we set off and we went to the border and we crossed the border. And that was like my first night on West German, or West Berlin rather, territory, which was extremely exciting. And then within a couple of weeks and months, really our whole world changed. And that was huge for all of us, I think.
And looking back at it and looking to where you are now, coming from the east to the west, what qualities did you think you had? Were you less spoiled or more flexible, or had a thirst or hunger for knowledge?
Yeah, I'd say the hunger for something new, to see the world, was definitely there. Because, I mean, coming from such an enclosed space kind of thing, we really wanted to see the world and we wanted to get out there. I think we were flexible. Like my generation. For others, like in their mid-40s and up, it was much more difficult, but we were young and the whole world suddenly opened up. So there was all these chances that we had in front of our doorstep, and we grabbed them and used them. And that, I think, really was a once-in-a-lifetime chance, which not everybody was able to pick up on. So for some, it was really challenging and difficult, but we were very lucky. And this flexibility, this curiosity, this openness, I think were very helpful.
What were the kind of first obvious things that maybe in the West we would have taken for granted that you walked, like the shops were full? Or I'm just curious to share some of those are very simple observations.
Yeah, on a very basic level, like I went shopping for the first time, like for just the normal stuff, butter and coffee and flour in the supermarket. And the West took me an hour because all the shelves were so full and there were all these different brands. And I was like, why do I need 50 different brands of butter? I have no idea what's going on here. So which one to pick? So just on that level. But then on another level, it was, suddenly you were very much responsible for the course of your own life. Whereas in East Germany, most of the things were very regulated and like done for you. You knew you would have a job and you knew you would have been assigned to a certain company and all that. So there wasn't much of a choice to take for you. So it was all kind of done. Whereas now in the West, suddenly I had to even start compiling my own courses for university because I was in the midst of my studies. And suddenly, you had to really think about what course do I want to take. Before that, you got a curriculum at the beginning of the year, and that's it. And you had to follow it.
No discussion.
And sit through it. No discussion. No, it was like in school, really. And so this kind of freedom and self-determination that suddenly was needed, and it was, I think, for a lot of people, very challenging and extremely new. And so that was quite something for me too.
Now, what would you say to the young people now who are 22, 23, we're in pandemic, their worlds have kind of been turned upside down, their expectations, and they had the opportunity to realize these expectations, they've all been taken away. It kind of sounds like you could give some good advice from the point of view from where you came from.
Well, I think obviously it would be fantastic if you'd found something that you really love doing. And a lot of people say, find what you love and then you'll be good at it. And that is very, very true. But there may be circumstances where that is just not possible. And maybe the pandemic is one of those cases. And maybe there are other cases like that as well. And certainly in East Germany, I wouldn't have had the chance to do what I loved 100%. So, keep an open mind, be flexible, and be open for something else. And don't shy away from going to places or going to companies or jobs that you might not particularly fancy at the beginning, and then try to be good at it. I think that's something that I always try to do, be good at what I do. And then you get a reward for that. So yes, if you're lucky enough, if you're one of the lucky ones who finds exactly what he loves and he has the capacity to do it, and that's great. But other than that, take it as it comes along and go for the challenges. If I just may add, going to Tehran wasn't top priority on my list either, but it turned out as one of the most fascinating and inspirational learning experiences in my whole life. And I have very, very fond memories of the time. It wasn't always easy, far from it. We were there when 9/11 happened and, all the problems that started after the war in Afghanistan and whatever. So it wasn't always easy, but it is it's still rewarding. And I really had a very, very, very good and happy time there.
That's really interesting because my next question was going to be, and is segued into it, like when you went to Tehran, it's a particular country with a particular leadership and where maybe males are more dominated from the point of view of ruling the country. So coming in and trying to adjust your style as a diplomat, do you want to share any funny experiences and how you learned on the go, or maybe the advice you got from a colleague to say, here's how you navigate this? I'm just curious.
Well,
any funny stories?
Funny stories.
Or diplomatic incidents you might have caused?
There's one kind of not really incidents, but I remember that, usually, or not usually, but you have to wear a headscarf when you're there and a coat. And then one day we left the house and and I was driving the car, and then suddenly my daughter from the back says, "Mommy, you don't wear a headscarf," and you could get arrested for it. Now, as a diplomat, that would have been maybe less of a problem, but anyway, so they might have stopped. And I was like panicking, and then I turned around and I saw this kitchen towel in the back. So just to escape from being arrested, I put around the kitchen towel around my head, and so we drove off, and everything was okay. No, but on a more serious note, actually, when you go there, you prepare, so you know a little bit about it. But I think I prepared a little too much, even in the way that I overdid it. Like still in Singapore, I bought all the scarves and everything, and I really, learned how to tie it really closely around my face and everything. And then we arrived at Tehran airport, the first time I ever landed in Tehran, and I looked around, and all these Iranian ladies, they just had their shawls loosely, wrapped around their head, and no one was looking like me, like with this really tight scarf around. So I found that hilarious, and I felt so stupid. I mean, you have those stereotypes, and you have those, ideas about what is going to happen, and then you realize there are so many different shades of what is going on in a country, in a society. So that's what I mean by, and there were so many of those little experiences that I had where you realize, wow, there's so much more to learn, and this is so different from what you expect. So it's been great.
Because the Persian culture is a very old culture that we don't really facilitate. And what about the food? What new foods did you get to taste over there for the first time?
Oh, they have the best rice in the world, I have to say. So if you get one of the rice dishes, this is one of the best. And then you have all the kebabs, and you have all those lovely aubergine dishes and all that. So, and the fruits and the vegetables. Oh my God, they are so tasty. Mulberries, fresh from the trees. Gorgeous, And then you get red beet. You get it like on the streets everywhere. They boil them there. Gorgeous stuff. And I like, as I say, the fruits, they are just so tasty, and it's lovely. It really is.
Yeah, it's great. You're making me hungry now just hearing it. When you're hiring someone or recruiting someone, or a new staff member joins one of your missions, what are you looking for in that person?
Well, there's first, like the diplomatic staff that we hire in Berlin, and they are being posted abroad. And there's a whole set of things that we are looking for, from like the intellectual capacity, obviously, the interest in politics, whether you have that intercultural understanding, social behavior. Are you a team player? That's very important, because our missions abroad are usually not very big, apart from the really big ones like Moscow and Washington and London and Paris. But other than that, they are very small. So being a team player is extremely important to us. So, and then obviously you have to know foreign languages and all that. So there's quite a substantial catalog of things that we are looking for. When we hire local staff, it really depends on the actual job. Like if you're working in consular affairs, you would have a lot of you would have a lot of dealings with customers. So are you a friendly person? Are you open? Are you flexible? Do you have the intellectual capacity to learn the job quickly and all that? So are you open-minded? Do you have an interest also, of course, in Germany and in relations with us and all that? So what was always important to me when I was in HR is not one person can bring everything to that one company. Or all the traits. You need different capacities for different jobs. So like we need the guy who can go out there and represent and is that, charming networker and whatever. But we also need a person who's actually happy to sit down and check international contracts, and the other person who is fabulous in writing speeches. So you need for every you need a lot of different capacities in people in a big sort of institution like ours. And that is sometimes a bit of the challenge when you recruit people. But it's also extremely interesting to find then the right people for the right place in this big institution. I mean, we have 12,000 employees, so it's huge.
Wow, and you've over 25 years. You've probably have been lucky or been in the right place at the right time to meet maybe some names of certain people around the world. Is there any people that you've sort of seen or met who you really were impressed with as kind of world leaders?
I had the absolute honor to meet Kofi Annan once with my federal president when I was working for him in his office, and I don't know, I've hardly ever met a person with an aura like his. He just walked into a room and he had such a presence, and it was warm, it was so impressive, it was just, I don't know, for me, it was really like a very special moment to be there. And so we sat down and talked for an hour and a half. He talked with the president, but as I say, I had the honor to be there. And I mean, there were other incidents, or other occasions. I had the pleasure to shake hands with Obama and also with Putin, and a lot of people when I was working with our president. But it's not always these big kind of, or what people assume are those big encounters. But I had fantastic, very moving encounters with people like Holocaust survivors in Israel. I still remember that we had that talk also with the president, and we were all crying at the end. So they touch you. Personally, emotionally. I had other encounters with people who actually, care us in social settings, people who had just survived a very bad flooding in Germany, and they picked up and they tried to clean up the mess, and they helped each other, and they had lost everything, but they're still in this together and helping each other. And, I personally get very kind of emotional, and I'm very touched by encounters like that. And you meet a lot of, fascinating and impressive people in situations like that too.
Okay, workplace stress. How do you have a very demanding job and lots of people coming into your personal space, well, maybe not as many now with COVID, but the sense of people taking your energy, and how do you manage that? That's I think a very good question for each and every one of us, and I think everybody has to find his own or her own way. So I take a lot of energy from being with my family, with my friends. I'm a very social person, so actually that is not only stress to me, which it can sometimes be, but it gives me back a lot of energy. But then I also had a certain point when I was beginning of my 30s where I was really very stressed out. Children were small, job was very challenging and everything. So then my dad said to me, why don't you try autogenic training? And that is kind of a muscle relaxation, meditation kind of a method. And you can also find it on YouTube and stuff, if you were interested. And it kind of just, brings you down, and you have to learn it. Takes a little while to learn it and to adapt to it. But then it's just so relaxing. And I just need to do it 10 minutes. Whenever I'm really stressed out, I might lie down for 10 minutes and do it. And it gives me back a lot of energy, a lot of focus, and just this calmness, this peace, this inner peace or whatever that you sometimes need to go back to keep on going. So that really helped me, and I'm really grateful to my dad that he actually introduced that to me. So yeah, there you go. How long did it take you to accept it and then learn it and then practice it?
Actually, he really just grabbed me by the hand and he said, "Let's go," and we lie down on the floor in the living room. and I show you how to do it. And like the first time around, I was laughing because some of the things they say, they were like, yeah, sure, but then when you realize, when you understand it, it's great. And it didn't take me that long. Some people say you need like half a year constant training. It didn't take me that long, maybe a couple of weeks, really. And it's just, it's really fascinating. I really, really like it because it helps me.
Well, that's interesting. So you'd advise any 22, 23-year-old who might be skeptical about this kind of stuff, maybe this is something they should look at, particularly time when there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, and I mean, there are so many different versions of this out there, so just try it out. It helped me. So I don't know. I mean, just trying it. That's what I mean with like keeping an open mind. That's not only focusing like on the career, but also on other issues. I mean, just have an open mind, try it out. And if that's nothing you like, then I don't know. I also go for runs. So some people just, they get obsessed with running. I'm not that obsessed, but I still do it. And it also clears my mind. But, find your own set of things.
Okay, great. Last question, Deike. Would you want to share, say, 5 words that might describe your career to date?
Okay. So there would be hard work, but also exciting, very diverse, which I love, challenging at times, and rewarding, personally rewarding.
That's a lovely way to finish, rewarding. So for anyone listening out there, young or old, if you get up in the morning and you fire in the belly and you like what you're doing, that's really what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Yeah. I'd like to thank Deike for talking with us today.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate your time. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a huge pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you for listening to The Career Scoop, brought to you by Elevate Career Advice and Elevate Executive Selection. I'm James Fitzsimons, and I hope you've enjoyed listening. Make sure to tune in for upcoming Season 3, which will air on the 18th of November, where we'll be talking to some more interesting people about their careers. Hope to see you there.